Welcome back, friends. Good morning, Prometheus. I see you comment on a lot of our videos. All right, we're going to dive right into it. I'm so sorry I'm a few minutes late, guys. I was just finishing up some lunch. That's my fiance in the corner. We're doing some February cleaning now that the month has started. But yeah, I'm really excited and curious to hear your guys' questions about this topic. Wow, my hair is a little bit all over the place. Anyways, I'm dressed in a hoodie. I'm about to go to breakdance practice right after this. But please let me know whatever questions you guys have. If the audio's working, if it's good or bad, let me know too. But I'm using this software, StreamYard, so that way I can also share my screen. I prepared a little presentation for you guys today. Window, StreamYard, share. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this. Actually, I just realized it will be easier if I share the other screen. Or, oh no, okay, I figured it out. Ha ha ha. Oh, okay, cool. Let's do it. And yes, please, I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' comments. Let's dive right in. Why is college admissions unfair? Wow. There's just too many reasons. I think that from the first start, we think about different high schools. And I think a lot of students can get very easily discouraged by saying like, oh, their high school is better, my high school is not as good. But really, this whole video is going to be about reframing and taking some of those preconceived notions about like maybe your school is not that good. Actually, this can be a superpower. So did you know that kids who come from schools that maybe not, they don't send a lot of kids to top colleges, this is actually kind of a good thing in the eyes of a college admissions officer. So if you never if someone from your school has never gotten into a school like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, and you apply, that will actually make the college admissions officer quite interested, especially if you apply from a rural school from like the Midwest or from some region in the States, versus if you apply from a really competitive school, right? So I went to Phillips Exeter Academy, which some of you guys might have heard of, but it right now is ranked, I think, as the #1 high school in America, which is crazy. So this school sends a third of our students to Ivy League schools, top 20 schools. But because of this, it's actually really competitive. And some students even argue that it might have been easier to stay at a public school from where they're from and apply from there. That might have raised their odds. Of course, there's all kinds of other dimensions too, right? Like some richer folks, they might even start grooming their kids to row crew or play squash, like weird esoteric sports you guys have probably never even heard about. And then that's how they get recruited or they get their ticket in. So at the end of the day, there's many reasons why it's kind of unfair, I guess you can say. But the first step is just kind of recognizing where is it unfair, what can you do about it, and then just going from there. I think that the odds are actually most stacked against middle class students, international students, and then the somewhat rich students as well. So I recently read an article about these students whose parents make low six figures, which is considered very good, right, in America. But this actually is one of the hardest brackets to get into college from. You're not quite like poor enough to qualify for financial aid. There's privilege. And basically, the college admissions officer is really expecting you guys to come up with interesting things that you've done. You go to a decently good school. You've been blessed with a lot of opportunities. So the question is, what have you done in high school, right? How have you made use of those resources? The middle class, really tough as well. But don't worry, guys. We're going to talk about why it's tough and also what you guys can do about it. Middle class is definitely tough. You guys are getting squeezed. I mean, these days, a really good option is just to go to your local state school for 2 years, 3 years, maybe even more, and then switch to a different school. So I recently had a student who's from Texas, and she got into UT Austin and got into Georgia Tech computer science, right? Top, like some of the top computer science programs in America, top 5. And UT Austin is $11,000 a year for her because of in-state tuition. Whereas Georgia Tech, I think it's going to be at least 30. And let's say you got into a school like Harvard or Yale, I promise you it'll be like $50,000, $60,000. So middle-class students, it is tough, but we're going to talk about really smart strategies to present your profile. And then same thing for international students, guys. The odds are honestly quite stacked against you. Going back to my school, Exeter, just to give you the cold hard facts, let's say every year Exeter sends 10 kids to Harvard, 10 kids to Yale. the same number of kids are accepted from India and China each year, right? The whole nation of India, the whole nation of China sends 10 kids to Harvard and Yale each year. And I would say it's even harder for those kids because many of them are recruits, or some of them are coming from really top international schools. But that being said, it can be done. It does take a lot more preparation. And for those of you who are watching this as like sophomores or juniors, you can still take gap years. In fact, one of my most successful students, she had to apply to colleges in the States 2 times, maybe even 3 times. She took a gap year. Her first time didn't pan out that well, but ultimately she got a full scholarship at Amherst, which was crazy because Amherst, I think, only takes maybe like less than 5 kids each year from the whole nation of India. Oh, okay. So yes, this is live. I will put down some of I have to click on some of the comments for them to show up. Huge congrats, Maharsh, on getting into Northeastern. That's amazing. If any of you have also gotten into schools and want to shout out, that makes me really, really happy. So yeah, let me know where you guys are going. If you got in somewhere. My own college admissions journey, guys, I applied to just 10 to 12 schools, and my first 4 to 6 were all rejections, deferrals, waitlist. I applied to Princeton early, I got deferred. Then I heard from all these other schools, MIT rejected, Stanford rejected, and Georgetown. Georgetown I was accepted, but that was later on. University of Florida. Really, really weird and funny story. For those of you who are domestic students, if you're a really top student, sometimes you apply to your state school, University of Florida, or let's say University of Virginia, and they may not even take you early, or they may not take you at all if your profile is too good, because they know you're not going to go. So they want to drive down their admissions rates. And the way they do that is they're like, this guy's not even going to come to our school. So I mean, that's true. I was not even really going to go to the University of Florida no matter what, because the main reason I would go is if I got a bunch of money and financial aid. But it's like I was so broke that all schools would give me financial aid. So UF didn't even take me. And actually they rejected a ton of kids from our school, from our private school, because they just knew that we weren't going to go. So that was really weird, but it happens. So sometimes these results can be a little bit baffling, but they're not a reflection of like who you are. They're sometimes just more of a reflection of the college's admission strategy. You have to note that these guys, their job is to drive down the acceptance rate every single year. Like Harvard had some record 3% acceptance rate. Just really, really quick aside. Early decision, let's see, 2023 or 2024. So each year it's going down, right? It looks like how many kids are being accepted? Roughly the same number of kids are being accepted on a 4-year average, right? So what does this really mean? This just means that they're getting more applications, right? And why are they getting more applications? Well, because they've removed things like the SAT and ACT as a requirement. So really more of these applications are coming from international students. It's also not like America is having some huge population boom, or suddenly there's a gigantic influx of a lot more qualified applicants. No, it's just that there's more international students applying. And then I'm sure the regular decision rate is going to be even higher, or regular decision number of applications is going to be crazy high. And then the acceptance rate will probably be, if I had to estimate, like less than 4%. But is it because Harvard is getting just insanely more competitive every single year? I would say maybe over like a 10-year trend or 20-year trend, it is getting a bit more competitive than it was compared to years ago. But year over year, not that crazy. Okay, so, oh, awesome. I just covered that. Is college really getting that much harder to get into? Short answer, not really. It was exactly what I just described. A lot more international students are applying because they can. We've been getting a lot more interest from students. We've been getting a lot more interest, from students in Africa, from students in Southeast Asia, because before they just would not be able to apply, from students in Europe, because before it was literally impossible to apply since they couldn't even take the standardized test, right? Like people would literally have to leave their country to do it. All right, other questions. I wanted to ask, if my status changes, can I get FAFSA? I think it really depends on the school. So you'll have to email that question to the school or Northeastern's financial aid office, and they'll be able to answer that. Every school's financial aid is a little bit different, and it is very complicated. Okay, so if my younger cousin was applying to college, just so I have a sense, like, are there some parents here? Are there sophomores, juniors, seniors? Let me know who's here in the chat, so that way I can kind of like tailor this information a little bit better to you guys. But let's say my younger cousin was applying to college this year. Let's say he's a junior. I've been getting a lot of interest from juniors already. It's going to depend a lot on their background. Definitely the 3 or 4 biggest things that I keep mentioning in these lives is that senior, domestic. Okay, so you guys have already gotten into college. That's funny. You guys are just here to hang out. Appreciate it. But if my younger cousin was applying to college, for sure, summer programs are really key. So let's say my younger cousin's top 3 schools were, they're very interested in computer science. So let's just say UT Austin. Another really great school would be Carnegie Mellon. Honestly, program's probably better than Harvard or Yale's computer science. And then let's pick one more, Georgia Tech. And then maybe one that's a little bit easier to get into, like, ironically, let's say they had a very strong profile, good awards, good GPA, excuse me, maybe 1 or 2 national awards. Then maybe they want to consider some other offbeat Ivy League school like Dartmouth. Like Dartmouth's computer science program would be easier to get into than Carnegie Mellon, actually. So what I would encourage my younger cousin to do is actually apply to the summer programs at these schools, right? So you can apply to Dartmouth. Dartmouth has a pre-college program. Carnegie Mellon has a program. Georgia Tech, I'm sure, has a program. And so you apply to these programs now. Some of the deadlines may have already passed. Some are in February, some are in March, some are rolling. But if you apply to these programs and you get in, and really just practice, a good way to practice your college applications by going through these summer program applications. You apply, you get in. Let's say you get into half, pretty conservative. You get into half, and then when you actually apply to Carnegie Mellon in the fall, that actually boosts your chances so much already. More than 5%, arguably maybe even 10 to 20%. Like your odds get so much higher. It's crazy. I don't know why more people don't do this. It's just a preparation thing. I guess many juniors just have their head already buried in the sand, focused on grades, that sort of thing. But that will help you a lot. The other thing is that if you get into a summer program, you don't have to go. You can just say, something came up, family got sick, something. I got in. I really wanted to go, but I couldn't go. And getting into this program also counts as kind of like a national or even international award, because sometimes some of these programs are quite prestigious and they don't take everyone, right? What do you think about the relationship between interviews and admissions? Okay, I'm going to throw down some of these questions. I only applied to Ivies. Could I theoretically just be rejected by each one, even with a solid profile? Question is, yeah. I mean, the short answer is yes, especially because Ivy League schools only take less than, let's say, 5 kids per year from a school like Germany. So you really need at least like national or international prizes to be competitive. I have an insanely hard math competition on the 7th. What do I do? Okay, that is probably not, I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but there's other math YouTube channels that you can check out. I did a summer program at Babson and then I got rejected EA. Did the summer program really matter that much? That's pretty surprising. The summer programs do help a lot. So I'm curious to know kind of what happened there, but that's a little bit rare. I mean, doing the summer program at XYZ school and then applying there, like there's no way the summer program can ever hurt you. And so many schools just I've literally even seen in admissions files, oh, we really liked the fact that you mentioned whatever, Yale Young Global Scholars, you came, you attended, and they reference that in the application, and it can never hurt. So Babson, maybe you applied for like the business program, which is a little bit more competitive, but I don't know the exact case. Okay, returning back to this question real quick, and then we're going to dive into what you can do about college admissions. Interviews. Again, the interviews can pretty much never hurt you. They can only help you. So we have people who have literally interviewed for Yale. Like they were interviewers for Yale, submitted those recommendations, and now work for our team. So one of our teammates, Alina, for example, says that the interview can never hurt you, but it can be the deciding factor between getting off a wait list. It can be the deciding factor between like you're really on the fence of getting in and then pushes you to get in. The other thing is like, let's say your interview, you bomb it and it's horrible and your interviewer writes horrible things about you. The admissions office is still going to take that with a grain of salt because they get quite a few of those. And sometimes it's a reflection of the interviewer's bias, not necessarily the interviewee, which is you. So they're just going to be like, oh, maybe this person had an off day, unless like something really strange or horrible happened and they reference things that you like, inappropriate things that you said or did. Okay. Thanks for the previous answer. I'm also a US citizen living in India. Any cool essay ideas for summer programs? The essays are just a function of your lived experiences, which we're going to hit on point number 5 here. Do and then write. Is an interview from Princeton or UPenn a positive indicator? It's literally pure availability. I don't know how to stress this. It's not like, wow, really like this kid, we're going to extend an interview to them. It's pure availability, especially because it's all done by alumni. And I assume it's probably virtual. Well, Ivy's actually pre-screen interviews. I slept through my Yale interview and apologized. Am I fine? Not a good look. Obviously not ideal. I think you should still be okay. I don't even know what pre-screening means. Do you mean like they try to figure out who is available? I'm pretty sure it's just done. If they do any sort of pre-screening, it's just based on availability. So they're going to figure out availability, in geography. So how many people do we have that are alums in this time zone, in the city, in the state, in this country? And that's pretty much how that sort of information is decided. Okay, going back to this idea of good essays, do then write. All right, so as juniors or seniors now, guys, I mean, you're still going to be applying for all kinds of stuff. Newsflash. Like once you get to college, you'll be applying for more summer programs, more grants, study abroad opportunities. You'll be applying to internships. You'll be applying to master's programs, grad programs. So pay attention. This all still applies. All right. So for international students, one of the best things that you can do is really study successful case studies from your own country, especially people who are 1 or 2 years older than you. You don't want to find some kid like 10 years ago who got into whatever, Stanford from India, and then just like follow his profile and approach to a T. But you'll want to look at people who have recently been admitted, especially if you know that they're kind of tangentially related. That's how one of our students from the Philippines got into to Duke and some top 10 colleges, by really studying and looking at other people who had done so. And then the passion project is absolutely key. So these days, there's just no excuse to not do a passion project, service project, initiative. It's so, in a sense, I guess you could say easy. It's so accessible. It's so ubiquitous that if you don't do some sort of mini passion project, it is a red flag, especially as an international student. So what are some just random examples of passion projects? Okay, so you organize a beach cleanup. That's a pretty decent passion project for a 9th grader. But a much better upgraded one, for example, is, let's say you collect a bunch of glass bottles. I'm from Miami. So let's say you collect a bunch of glass bottles from Miami Beach. And then actually I use those glass bottles and I create this gigantic, 100-foot glass turtle, right? To raise awareness about how like your glass bottles are killing turtles in this region, just as an example, right? That's a much better passion project. So that's something that we teach and coach kids a lot. There's some like very simple baby passion projects. Sometimes you teach coding. You run a little coding summer camp. You teach Scratch to like 3 chicken nuggets in your community. You're like your younger cousin and their three friends. But then you start growing it. That's another passion project that one of our students did. Got into USC, and he basically ran this coding camp and just doubled it every 3 months. Twice as many kids, twice as many courses, and he did that for 2 or 3 years. And of course, admissions, they love seeing that continuity. So the more unique your passion project, the more legitimacy you can give to your passion project, the better. And these days, there's all kinds of courses online that will teach you how to start your passion project. A passion project could evolve and become a nonprofit, a small company, but it doesn't have to be. It could be more research-oriented. It could be more service-oriented. As long as you have one, that's what matters. Okay, community impact is also key. I've seen a lot of students come up with more creative approaches. Like one student who got into Stanford that we worked with from Asia this year just planted, I'm pretty sure, like 10,000 trees. That was his passion project. He literally went out every day and he planted a few trees. And then over the course of like 2 or 3 years, he planted 10,000 and he repopulated like a freaking forest in his country. So, and then, other people started getting involved, and clearly there was some benefits on the community. That's important. Like I said to Prometheus earlier, you do need national and international awards, especially given the fact that some of your guys' countries are more or less the size of a US state, right? Like Texas, humongous state. California, that state's huge. It's like crazy. It's like a combination of several European states or whatever, African nations, or you get my point. Like winning a state award in California is kind of a big deal. That's like the same level as winning a national or international award for you guys. If you don't we've reached the point where we had like 500, 600 kids who wanted to work with us, and we really can't or won't work with national or international students that don't have an award. It is really, really important. Okay, there's a bunch of other questions. Let's take a look. Psychology research. Yeah, good. That can count as a passion project. One of our students actually taught younger middle schoolers how to run little psychology projects. There's one, with like the marshmallow, and you have to like see if the kid will eat the marshmallow or not. And then, I don't know, she did something fun and played like Chubby Bunny with the kids, where they just literally just stuff their face with as many marshmallows as they can. So a little blend of, something more academic with also something really, really fun and wholesome is nice. There's psychology research. Another one that I just came up with, guys. I'm making a bunch of new videos. You just haven't seen me post them. My YouTube is kind of crazy. But one of the really most exciting videos that we were recently working on was how to get into Yale using this egg. And I talk about using an egg to showcase psychology, like behavioral economics and psychology, by, let's say you give like 10 people an egg and you ask them to trade this egg for different items throughout the day. So this actually was part of a Yale School of Management course that I was a part of called Persuasion and Influence. And so they gave you a paper clip and you had to trade it for a pencil, trade it for a book. And then this guy, over the course of a semester, kept trading and trading until he ended up with a used car. So you could do the same thing with an egg. Again, these passion projects, they're like the sky is the limit. But I see a lot of students do very, very like cliche, classic passion projects, book club, beach cleanup. And that's good. That's actually a really good start for a middle schooler, for an early high schooler, like in 9th or 10th grade. But you really need to start imbuing good flavor, something unique, combine multiple disciplines. And that's how you start ending up with like really amazing essays, right? And even better if you can get your teachers involved, then they'll write recommendations for you too. I had an interview with Cornell. I'm from India and my interviewer was from New York. How did the geography thing factor here? Again, it's just probably just availability. These days, they've changed it a lot since it's all virtual. So who knows? It might even just be random. Do updates on the portal help? Yes. Yes. Please submit updates via the portal. Some schools want a letter of continued interest. Some schools just want an update on the portal. Like Stanford has their own form. I think that these days Yale or Harvard might have their own form. Okay, asking for some career recommendation. I'll probably get rejected by each Ivy. So what could I do to transfer to an Ivy eventually? So yeah, that's a really great question. You just really want to ball out this year. I mean, this is a really great question. And honestly, we could spend an entire year just talking about this. An entire video. Okay, just to give you a TLDR, because I actually think a lot of people would find this interesting. Let's say things don't go perfect this year. And in fact, you could save a bunch of money by going to a national, a school, a university in Germany, let's say for 1 or 2 years. You could even just go to an Ivy League for grad school, for example. Or if you're a domestic student, I have friends who attended Miami-Dade Community College for a few years. Boom, transferred to Yale. Guess what? You still get a Yale diploma. Hello, right? And you saved $100K. That's crazy. So in order to do this successfully, you do need a few different ingredients. I wish there was a way for me to type. That's too big. Hold on. Okay, I'll just answer this question over here. So if you want to successfully transfer, already thinking ahead, right? You're going to need amazing recommendations from your professors. If you can do some sort of form of research, that's also really good. That's a little too small. You're also going to need you're still going to need honors and awards from this past year. They don't really care about anything you've done in high school at that point. They just care about what you've done in the past year. So really smooching up to, these can be amazing recommendations from professors, or it could also be just trusted like industry professionals, maybe the head of a nonprofit or the head of a government agency if you decide to intern there, things like that. Again, still working some sort of job, still getting involved in volunteering, and really showcasing like your own intellectual, not just curiosity, but also initiative. I had a kid, all right, listen here. I had a kid who literally just took every single course, like not every single one, but finished the MIT CS degree by watching all of these courses on MIT OpenCourseWare in 6 months from Pakistan, right? And then he applied to MIT. I think he got in, or he got into a US college, but that's the kind of like level of initiative that you want to do. Then if you can combine this with a project, right? So you take the MIT courses, you build some sort of educational app. Okay, you build the app with a professor. That's how you get the professor to write you an award. That's how you get the professor to write you an amazing recommendation. And then you use that project and you apply for grants and you get awards, you get funding, you get featured in newspapers. So all these things are connected. It's not like, oh, they're just completely separate planets or galaxies that are just disconnected. No, they're all connected. They all weave together. So that's very, very important. Standardized tests are quite important for international students. They're not that important for, well, actually, they're really, really important for, they're going to be nice to have no matter what. I was going to say they're less important for international students, excuse me, because some students just can't take them in their region. If you have them, though, it's a really nice win. They're really, really important for people who are, they're really important for middle-class Americans, because if people think like, oh, I don't have to take it anymore. Yeah, you do still kind of have to take it. And it will be definitely nice to have. Like, you have access to it. It's like, let's say your school offers APs and you don't take APs, right? That's kind of a red flag. If your region offers standardized tests and you don't take standardized tests, that's kind of a red flag. Any advice for the letter of continued interest? I think that balancing a tone of like really professional updates and impressive projects that you've done, but also just being a little bit more personal and being like, yeah, this spring I'm also taking more time to explore new interests or invest in these relationships. Here's how. And a lot of students, they just purely share like resume-esque updates, but just talking about like mindset shifts or really proud, whatever, even something cute. You're like, I recently experimented by making this, I don't know, a new dish. I've been experimenting in my kitchen by exploring 100 different ways to make potatoes. Those are also valid updates. Or even talking about your family and how you're taking care of family is also a valid update as well. Other application updates. I know MIT has a fun form. How much does this form matter for RD applicants if we don't have much to add? I would just use it if you have stuff to add. Yeah, if you're just using it to write something fluffy and there's not much there, then I probably wouldn't mention it. Okay, in my case, I'm thinking of going to East Asia, studying, starting a business. That could be smart. Yeah, I like that a lot, especially if you can partner with some reputable East Asian university too. That will definitely help your case. And they like students who maybe they applied the first time, they didn't get in, so now they go back and they reapply. It shows like commitment, right? Like you really want to be here. Okay, so it looks like most of you guys are international students, so I guess I'll kind of just breeze through this section. But this goes for middle class Americans. Awards for sure are still going to be super duper helpful. I would continue emphasizing humility and service. Like working some sort of menial job is really great for middle class, upper middle class Americans. In fact, some really, really rich, like kids of billionaires, will pay college consultants to tell them to work menial jobs or to hook them up with a job at like a restaurant or a gas station or bagging groceries or as a lifeguard. It's crazy, but it happens. I've heard of it. I've literally seen it happen. Niche interest. The more niche your interest, like, rather than being yet another Asian Indian kid interested in STEM and CS, it will help to definitely combine it with something else. If you're like, I'm interested in the merger of computers of a large language. Oh, actually, I had a student like this of linguistics and CS, computational linguistics, computational biology, computational chemistry. Yes, that is a better strategy overall. But you have to be convincing, right? Like you can't just pull that out of your butt like a month before the deadline. You have to show that you really were interested in this and have been doing this consistently for months. So that connects to the ingenuity aspect too. By definition, if you combine 3 or more disciplines together, and these days, I would say like 10 years ago, colleges really, really cared about this concept of the spike, right? Like really having a singular focus, like this kid eats, breathes, lives, history, for example. And the more specific, the better. World War II history, or I don't know. I was recently on Netflix with my fiance, and there's like Alexander the Great. This guy's like an Alexander the Great historian or war historian. That would be interesting, actually. So that used to be like, okay, good. 2010s, this is the standard solid approach. 2000s, 2010s. These days, though, a lot of colleges For example, Yale is like, we want the Yale or Harvard, where I was talking to a Harvard student in an interview, and he's like, actually, Harvard offers these general courses that allow you to explore liberal arts. So if you combined war history with statistics and computer science, and you did an analysis of all like the 50 greatest wars in history and figuring out how many people participated, who died, how long did the wars last? That's a really cool project. Now, then you add a third ingredient to the mix. And let's say you're really interested in education. So you start a channel about this, or you create videos, you create animations related to these crazy wars that were fought. I'm thinking back to this. There's a funny video, actually. It was like, who would win? I think it's like a billion lions against every Pokemon. Anyways, there's like really funny. This is not the one I'm looking at. There was like 100 T-Rexes against like some sort of video like this. But it's an animation literally of people, of these armies that are fighting. Okay, quick tangent. All right, so other questions that you guys have. Any advice on getting my degree done early? I would say it's a good thing. Yeah, definitely try to get your degree done early. The way to do that is by doing more courses in a semester, or you can actually take courses and credits in the summer. So studying abroad, guys, is one of the best strategies ever, or you can stay on campus and just do research and get accredited through your university as well. So I have friends who did 5 years accelerated like master's programs. One of my friends did a master's in history, but she did it in 4 years at Yale. And also then you save $50,000 because you don't have to pay that much, right? Or another option, my friend did an accelerated AI degree at UT Austin. It was supposed to take him 5 years. He did it in 4 years. That was really funny too, because he just got together with like 4 of his friends, and they just made a deal where each week someone would do the homework. So instead of doing the homework every week, you now just did the homework every month, right? Because you just rotate. So work smarter, not harder, guys. All right. I know you're not a CS applicant, but what schools would you choose over UT Austin's Turing Scholars Program? Yeah, so this is one of the best programs in the world, period. I think it's better than Yale and Harvard. Again, it really depends on your goals. What you want to do post-grad? Do you want to do research? Do you want to potentially work in CS and stay in Texas? Do you want to do more academia? Maybe Yale or Harvard would be better for the academia approach. UT Austin, if you're really interested in CS and entrepreneurship, or maybe some more, then maybe that would be better. It depends on your goals. And I think that talking to students who are in the program is going to help you the most. Even if you're just on LinkedIn and you just got in and you DM some people, I promise if you DM like 10 or 20 students who are currently enrolled in the UT Austin Turing Scholars Program, that's a great approach for any school, by the way, if you're just trying to learn more. And again, if you have some sort of shared interest, if you guys are from the same region, same state, like, hey, I noticed you're also from Florida, or I noticed you're also from whatever, Southwest China, and was wondering, what you thought about the Turing Scholars Programs. You have like 15 minutes to chat. Happy to buy you a virtual coffee. Like, that's how you get people to agree to help you. It's just a game of persuasion. What are considered honors? Honors equals awards. So honors and awards, they're synonyms. These can just be a volunteering prize. This can be getting featured in a newspaper. This can be acceptance to a really prestigious international program. A lot of people don't know that counts as an honor. Being published for your research, winning some sort of competition with like less than a 10% acceptance rate. All kinds of things count as honors and awards, but it just is a matter of organization. I don't think a lot of students know that you just need to stay organized. You need to figure out, typically, like, let's say you build a really cool passion project. You can use that passion project and apply it to so many different programs. You can use it to gain awards, that sort of thing. Okay, do you have any knowledge about going to East Asia? Anything I could learn? I would start by looking at East Asian university programs. So for example, Taiwan or Japan, or even lesser known schools in like the Philippines or Indonesia. Those would be easier to get into than, let's say, like Beida, right, which is like China's Ivy League. So you can already start reaching out to professors there and ask like, hey, could I do research for you? I'll work for free. I'll be your grunt for 6 months. Here are my skills. Here's what I can contribute. I've already read your papers. I want to help, right? I've done previous research related to the research you're doing. How can I assist, right? At the end of the day, it's all about, there's a lot of outreach and cold email. You're going to get a lot of no's, but professors are more likely to say yes than some random stranger or entrepreneur. especially if you're able to establish some sort of previous link. Okay, we have a comment from God Bless You. As a saxophone player, I host concerts for children with special needs with my team. Is that considered as an honor or just an extracurricular? So that's just an extracurricular, unless you won like a music competition. There needs to be some element of selectiveness in order for it to count as an honor or award. But yeah, let's say for saxophone, honors or awards would be like All-State, right? It would be competing at saxophone concerto competitions, things like that, or jazz fests, and they only take a certain number of people, right? They don't take everyone. It's not like a participation prize. There needs to be some level of selectiveness. This is random, but do you think UW-Madison's a good choice? It really just depends on what program you're interested in. I remember UW-Madison, hold on, top programs. Some of them are quite famous. Yeah, their CS program is actually pretty good. I think that, and again, when it comes to something like CS or economics, people care way more about what you. As soon as you have the degree, you're fine. Like, what's your next step, right? You guys get into college. Let's go back to this question over here. What is even the purpose of college? The purpose of college, I'm curious to know. What do you guys think is the purpose of college? I'll shut up for a second. Like, just type it in the chat. What do you guys think is the purpose of college? The degree. Okay, so the purpose of college is to get a piece of paper. Well, why do we need a degree, right? I guess is the next natural question. So to an extent that it's just a matter of social positioning, right? Like, I guess if you have the nice degree, it somehow communicates that you're a higher value person. For me, the purpose of college is a job, right? Like, it helps with job security. That's a really, really common answer. Another really common answer is, notice how nobody said education. Nobody said it for the education. Well, it's true, because these days we all know you can get a free education just by watching YouTube videos. I learned more from YouTube than from Yale. Yes, true story. I learned more from YouTube than from Yale University. Even, granted, there's literally Yale courses. Again, Yale courses. Like, I think this is a channel with over 1 million subs. Yeah, a bunch of courses from the past 10 years on here for free. So the purpose of college for me, it was more about job security, right? So you guys already need to start thinking about the next phase. It could be smarter to go to a school like UW-Madison. Let's say you're from Wisconsin, you save a bunch of money, you rock out, you dominate the CS program, and it's really easy for you. And really what employers care about is, can you pass their little coding interview tests? And also, what previous job experience do you have? So they care about what apps you've built, how you're already using CS to make an impact on society. I promise you they're going to care about that way more than any Harvard CS course you took. That's ultimately what they care about. And same thing for us. Like, I hire a bunch of people. I don't care what school you went to, really. I basically assign people tasks, and I've seen people from USC knock it out, and I've seen people from Harvard utterly bomb. Like, I literally ask these guys to edit the same essay, and of course they're going to have varying degrees of quality. At the end of the day, it's like, can you do the work? Okay, so people were saying, for the degree, what is the purpose of college? The piece of paper, duh. Personal and professional development. You're welcome for answering the question. Please, guys, ask more questions. I'm here to serve. Imagine if I was just talking to myself in like a cold, dark room and nobody was listening. Well, that's usually how I make YouTube videos. But no, those are eventually shared with the world, right? I would not make videos if it was just me. That's crazy talk. So I'm here to serve. Much more competitive in music. I want to major in CS and econ. So really, really cool way to think about it. There's a lot of already combinations of music and CS. We've seen that a lot. Maybe some kids create like an app that teaches music, or an app that, they build a metronome app. What's more interesting is the economics of music. Now, that would be a really cool and interesting passion project. You can talk about how record labels make money. You can talk about how, how people decide to choose one piece of music over another. What influences their psychology? Again, those are all really cool projects that you can use. And then maybe you come up with some sort of idea and you enter like an entrepreneurship or pitch competition. And that's how you get an honor and award. Okay, any tips on getting into UC Berkeley? Well, It would help to know a little bit more about the background too. If you guys are like a junior, a senior, if you're thinking about UC Berkeley for grad school. Hi, Vinay. Hey, Kevin. Hope you're doing well. I'm a freshman right now at a local state school, hoping to transfer to a T20 in the fall. Is having a resume vital or not that big of a deal? It will help. I do think that having a resume is helpful. It's not necessarily vital. Like they're gonna see your activities list in your application, but having a really nice resume can never really hurt. I'll send you guys a copy of my resume so that you guys can see it, actually. I'll just put it in the... Oh, I can't send it in the chat, huh? Because it's not connected to... I wish there was a chat with everyone. No, that doesn't work. What if I put it here? Can you guys see this link that I put in the chat? Or maybe I'll put it on the screen like this. Hopefully you guys can see that. So this is my resume from college, from 3 or 4 years ago in college. I would say now a lot of this is out of date. This was like my first company I founded, which was a total disaster. The second company, Elevate TED School, is way better. The first project, guys, you also have to recognize it's kind of like your first pancake. It's not going to be perfect. It's just going to be edible. All right, we're just going to get it done. The second and third and fourth ones tend to be way more successful. And imagine like some students start passion projects in college. Like 10, 20 years ago, that was the norm. But nowadays, people are starting them in high school, some even in middle school. I started my first passion project in like this in senior year of high school. There were a few other events that I started here and there, but the first serious one was like high school. Okay, yeah, you're welcome for the advice. Happy to help. Have you known colleges to ever give advice? No, they don't really give advice. Well, they give advice in a different way, right? Like if you just look up the Yale admissions office, they have a whole channel, which is they're not great. It's kind of crazy that like the Yale courses has 1 million subs and this has 3,000, but they give a bunch of tips here. They're not going to give targeted tips on your own application. I was thinking of doing this too. Actually, maybe you guys watched this other lady, Crazy Medusa, but she does like she was comparing like different. Oh, it's not that. She was comparing different profiles, like an average profile versus an Ivy League profile. Is your profile good enough? I was gonna make a video about this too. And if somebody wants to volunteer their application, I can basically give feedback on it and make it into a YouTube video. But of course, we would anonymize everything. I might even like take multiple students' applications and merge them together to preserve anonymity. But I was going to make a video about this topic. And I think that a lot of people think your profile has to be so mind-blowing. But I can show you some incredibly successful profiles that maybe don't even have international awards. I think I had one semi-international award, but it really wasn't that crazy or impressive. How can I get college consulting? Well, these days we're actually available for free consultations since finally we're not editing. We edited so many essays last year, guys. For reference, in 2022, we edited 250 essays. And last year we edited 2,500 essays. But yeah, if you guys want to get in touch with someone from the team, I will be traveling. I'm going to Morocco next week, so we won't have a live stream. But Jeff is back in Taipei, and you can chat with him for like 15 minutes. Princeton interview last Saturday went really well. And how will this increase my chances? Yeah, it will probably increase your chances by a few percentage points for sure. Like I said, it could be the thing that tips you over. It won't be the reason you got in, but it could be the thing. Well, maybe that's kind of the same thing. All right. Can passion projects for comp sci be as simple as creating games on Scratch? Yes, but do keep in mind that you're going to be competing against people who have like won hackathons, done like, USICO. So that's a good start. But again, think of like the most impressive version. A good way of thinking about it is to create one version of a project and think about the most impressive scale version that you could make. What if you taught 1 million kids? And then you're like, okay, 1 million kids, that's kind of too much. But maybe like I'll start with 100. 100 could be possible in my community. Okay, maybe next year 1,000. 1,000, yeah, in a year. I think like, if I got each kid to tell 2 of their friends about it, we could grow. Do that, twice a year. We can grow exponentially, blah, blah, blah. But I would say on its own, that's not quite enough yet. Okay, we'll go for about 5 more minutes, and then we'll wrap it up. Is it worth to apply to Yale as a photographer to learn film? Yeah, Yale's film school, art school is super duper famous. I think that in order to build a really compelling profile, it's smart to go kind of an artsier route for sure. But I think a lot of students, they just maybe rely on it too much, like they just rely on their arts or creations too much, but you still will need some of those traditional metrics of success, right? Strong GPA, good recommendation letters, and most importantly, like schools like Yale, they love this concept of the activist artist. So if you can combine your film and say like, hey, I did like this documentary talking about this oil spill in our region, or I did a documentary on this marlin on like, I'm really big into fish, and so I analyzed the life cycle of a marlin. I like the intersection of fish and ichthyology. Sorry, yeah, intersection of film and ichthyology. That's like my thing. And you make a bunch of like really cool, like there's this one guy who he just like films Florida animals. Let's see. That is, it's one student and he has this crazy camera and he goes and he like films the marshes in Florida. And if you're able to combine that and with a little bit of intellectual vitality, with some more selflessness, yeah, for sure that's gonna help. That'll be cool. But like just saying like, oh, I just do film. Like a lot of kids are like, oh, I just do whatever. I make YouTube videos. Like it has to have a purpose these days. Is it okay to consider switching to a major you find more easier to find, you find more enjoyable, easier, even though you initially took computational biology? Yeah, for sure, guys. Look, Trojan horse all the way through. Do your little niche, little major prep. This is what so many kids do. Like excuse me, let me gather my thoughts. They will major in class. They'll study classics, right, for 3 or 4 years in high school. Say they want to major in classics. Boom, get in, and instantly change to economics because they want to make money. Nobody's going to hold you accountable and be like, yo, this guy, he didn't major in what he said he was going to major. Let's kick him out. No, they're like, oh, the whole purpose is so that you can explore, blah, blah, blah. So most of the kids end up just switching to CS and econ anyways. Those are like the 2 most popular majors in America, in every school these days, even at Yale, at Harvard, everywhere. But back in the day, it used to be way more humanities based, like much more related to political science, that sort of thing. Is there any secret sauce to increase my chances of getting in as an international transfer? Okay, so actually we covered this about 10 minutes ago. So you can just rewind and take a look at that. Is hosting a podcast as an effective extracurricular? Guys, any passion project, you guys can throw me some random ideas, can be successful as long as you can demonstrate your impact. If you have a podcast with 10 million subs, for sure, that's basically an honor or award. If you're like, we have viewers in 200 plus countries, we've grown it to this scale, that's a really good way to showcase impact. Now, of course, a lot of students will never get to that scale. So then the other approach is, instead of casting a wide net and helping a bunch of people, is focusing on a podcast where maybe you interview local businesses and you go really deep, right? You keep it very personal. The number of people you help might not be that crazy high, but the impact, right, and the depth of your relationship with people is high. So for example, even me now, right, I'm interviewing a bunch of people, old students that some of them work for the firm, some of them are students that I've taught in the past and tutored in the past, and I'm not even actually that concerned with the number of views. Like my rationale and I guess you could say thought process behind this is because I really care about Cindy, right? Like I've known Cindy for 4 or 5 years and I treasure this relationship. And that to me is more important than like, oh, we get like a couple thousand views on this video. That is kind of another way of viewing media channels, podcasts, YouTube series, TikToks, whatever. So that's also a good thing that you can talk about in your essay. Like it's going to look kind of whack if you're like, oh, my podcast has 10 episodes. We have 100 viewers. That's kind of so low, it's not even worth mentioning on the activities list. But if you're like, in your essay, you're like, oh, okay, we've only interviewed this many people, but this first interview led to this partnership, which led to this. That engagement is what people care about, even more so than numbers. Obviously, in an ideal world, you would have both. You'd have like, you'd reach hundreds of thousands of people and you'd have that deep engagement. Transferring. Okay, I feel like I've covered this topic in depth, so just go back and please rewatch some of this content. Any advice on networking? Oh, thank you. Don't worry, the subscribers will come. We're making a lot of content this year, and at the end of the day, the subscriber count doesn't really matter because a lot of people unsub after they get into college, but we're still getting a decent number of subscribers every single day. But what matters more is actually the view count and just the impact. I like reading a lot of the comments. So A year ago, I would get negative subs in January and February. Like people would literally unsubscribe. Then I was sad. I did actually consider quitting. At that point, it was pretty depressing. But what helps me out these days are the comments. Look at these comments, guys. This is what keeps me going. So you guys leaving a nice comment, you guys telling your friend about the channel, that is the greatest thanks you can give, honestly. Okay, any advice on networking in college? Oh, I could make a whole video on this topic as well. But yeah, a lot of it, I would say rather than trying to get in touch with big groups, like schedule those one-on-ones, shorter coffee chats, 20 minutes, grab a meal with someone. That is going to lend far better results for networking than any kind of small group. Even like 3 or 4 people, it's better to do one-on-ones, meet with seniors. I would just ask seniors from my school who went to Yale, and I would be like, what's stuff that you wish you had known during your first semester? And they led me to all kinds of opportunities, really cool jobs, internships I had not known about, fellowships and ways you can get free money. So all that was really, really helpful intel. And these days, like when you approach college and when you enter college, many of you guys are seniors, you've gotten in. And what you really should be concerned about is what you don't know, right? So there's things that you don't know. And there's things that you don't even know you don't know. That's the second one is kind of what should fluster you, right? The things you don't know. That's what you need to figure out. So there's unknown unknowns. And the way to figure that out is by talking to people who have most recently just been through your shoes. Even me now, like I'm getting old, guys. I'm several years removed from college. It's better to talk to somebody who's just like 1 or 2 years ahead of you. There's new buildings on Yale's campus that didn't even exist when I was there. Same thing for my high school. Okay. Thank you guys for your kindness. And we're going to wrap this up in just a second. Photography business. Okay, so the photography business, again, beginning with a very classic passion project, but then imbue and bake in some more intellectual curiosity. So if you're like, for photography, my business is I specifically photograph, again, I go back to the idea of the fish, but you could do some local issue. You could be like, the biggest issue in my community is the opioid epidemic. And I spend every single weekend photographing and hearing from addicts. Boom, chills, right? Already, what a powerful topic. So yeah, nice job. Congrats, Leandro. Last question. I am an international student looking forward to improving my writing. Guys, I want to create a whole unit just on writing and communications. Like I want to make 100 videos on this topic. Where is it? You guys recently, oh, here it is, community tab. Thanks for joining, guys. It's really nice seeing you guys here. Oh yeah, so I was like, okay, we're thinking of making some new content. What do you think would be most helpful? Honestly, each of these could be its own YouTube channel. I was even thinking of making like a new YouTube channel. But I think I am most excited to make videos about talking, writing, thinking more clearly. So I will definitely make some videos on that. I was thinking my first video, I was already meditating on it, how to articulate yourself so clearly you're never misunderstood again, something like that. Or how to listen so well, people think you have 4 ears, something funny like that. All right, we'll see. But all right, guys, we're nearing the end of our time. I got to go to breakdance practice. I'm on a schedule. I'm gonna roll around, spin on my head. My fiance is getting upset that I have like this little bald spot. She like rubs it in, although that's not really helping. Anyways, thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart for tuning in, for your thoughtful questions. I am here to serve. And ultimately, again, like I said, I would not be here if you guys weren't here, right? This works both ways. You guys tuning in, sharing your thoughts, comments. What would really make my day is if you guys could just share the channel with another person. I really want to hit 20,000 subs this February. I know I said, oh, don't worry about the sub count too much, but 20K would be nice, don't you think? 20K in February on the second month of the year, that'd be something. Alrighty, folks. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks, maybe next week. I might do it on Friday before I go on vacation. But yeah, there will be more live streams, more opportunities for you guys to connect. And please, if you have good news and got into a university, you're going somewhere, you're not going to end up being a hobo on the street. You will go someplace, I promise. Like a lot of people don't ever go to college. All right, let's just talk about that reality. More than 60% of people don't have a college degree. And you guys are already going to be joining slowly on the come up. Not even slowly, rapidly on the come up. So It's been a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy, folks. Have a great weekend. Bye.